You are 37 years old the first time someone calls your building the tallest in the world. You are standing on the observation deck on the 163rd floor, wind screaming past the glass at 200 kilometers an hour, and the city of Dubai sprawls beneath you like a circuit board someone forgot to turn off. The sun is setting behind the Burj Khalifa, your building now dwarfs it by almost 200 meters, and the sky is bleeding orange and gold across the desert. A Saudi prince is shaking your hand. A Japanese billionaire is taking a selfie with the skyline behind him. Your wife is downstairs in the private elevator, 8 months pregnant with your second child, texting you that the baby just kicked like it wants to see what its father built. You smile for the cameras because that is what you do now. You have been smiling for cameras for 6 years. But inside your chest there is already a small, cold stone. You know something the prince does not know. You know something the cameras do not know. You designed the flaw yourself. Not on purpose. Not at first. But you signed the change order anyway. This is how it started. You grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Manchester, England, the kind of place where the lift smelled of curry and wet concrete and the windows rattled every time a bus passed. Your father was a structural engineer for the local council, bridges, mostly, nothing taller than 4 stories. He came home smelling of diesel and chalk dust, and he would spread blueprints across the kitchen table after dinner while you sat on a stool and asked him why beams had to be exactly this thick. He never once told you to go play. He would hand you a pencil and say, "Show me where it would fail." Your mother taught art at the comprehensive down the road. She drew skyscrapers in the margins of your homework, impossibly tall, impossibly thin, like fingers reaching for something they could never touch. She died when you were 14. Cancer. The kind that moves fast and leaves no room for argument. At the funeral your father stood in the rain and told you, "Everything falls eventually, son. The trick is to make sure it doesn't fall on anyone who doesn't deserve it." You never forgot that sentence. You studied architecture at Cambridge on a scholarship you earned by winning every design competition they would let a working-class kid enter. You were good. Not brilliant, brilliant gets you noticed too early and chewed up, but relentless. You worked harder than anyone else because you still heard your mother's voice saying, "Draw it taller, love. Taller than they think possible." You graduated top of your class and took the first job that would let you build something real, a junior designer on a 30-story hotel in Qatar. You were 24. You slept in the site office for 3 months straight because the client wanted the opening moved up by 6 weeks and someone had to make the math work. That was the first time you learned the real rule of tall buildings: the taller it gets, the more people want to own a piece of the sky. And the more they want to own it, the more they are willing to shave off the things you cannot see. You spent the next decade bouncing between the Gulf, Asia, and China. You learned to speak enough Mandarin and Arabic to argue with contractors at 3 a.m. You learned that value engineering is polite language for cut corners until the building still stands but barely. You learned to calculate wind loads at 800 meters while investors argued about marble in the lobby. You designed a 620-meter tower in Shanghai that still stands today and a 710-meter tower in Jeddah that you left before the final pour because the owner wanted to save $12 million on rebar. You told yourself you would never compromise again. Then the call came. It was 2018. A consortium of sovereign wealth funds and private equity wanted the tallest building on Earth. Not the tallest for a year or two. The tallest, period. They wanted it in Dubai, on a plot of reclaimed desert sand that had never been built on before. They wanted it finished in 48 months. They wanted it to be a symbol. They wanted your name on it. You flew in on a private jet they sent for you. The first meeting was in a glass conference room on the 122nd floor of the Burj. The official inquiry lasts 4 years. They blame material fatigue, unforeseen wind loads, acts of God. Your name is mentioned 3,847 times in the final report. They call you brilliant. They call you negligent. They call you a cautionary tale. They never mention the change orders. The consortium's lawyers make sure of that. Clara receives a settlement large enough to raise the children without ever working again. She never remarries. She keeps a single photograph on the mantelpiece, you on the observation deck the day Apex opened, smiling the way you used to smile before the stone grew in your chest. Your son is now 16 and wants to be an engineer. Your daughter is 14 and draws skyscrapers in the margins of her homework, impossibly tall, impossibly thin. She tells her mother she wants to build something that will never fall. Your father lives long enough to see the memorial they erect on the site, a simple black granite plinth with your name and the words, "He reached for the sky." He visits it every Sunday until he cannot walk anymore. He never says much. He just stands there with his hands in his pockets the way he used to stand at the kitchen table, looking at blueprints. Somewhere in a storage unit in Manchester there is a cardboard box containing every sketch you ever made, every rejected design, every note you wrote at 3 a.m. when the building was still just lines on paper. On the very first page, in your 14-year-old handwriting, you wrote, "Make it taller than they think possible." The building is gone. The desert has already begun to reclaim the site. Sand blows across the empty plot where 828 meters of human arrogance once stood. But the wind still remembers. It still howls through the place where the spire used to be. And if you stand there at the right hour, when the sun is setting and the city is bleeding orange and gold, you can almost hear it, a low, directionless hum, like a television left on in another room. That is all that remains of Apex. That, and the knowledge that everything falls eventually. The trick is to make sure it doesn't fall on anyone who doesn't deserve it. You never quite managed it. But you tried. You really tried. That's a wrap. The story is fiction, but the tallest buildings in the world are real. Right now, somewhere on this planet, men and women in hard hats are signing change orders they know they shouldn't. They are shaving margins because the client is powerful and the schedule is tight and the future feels like something that belongs to someone else. The wind doesn't care about press releases. The concrete doesn't care about bonuses. Gravity has no lawyers. If this one made you think, drop a comment. Subscribe for more.